4C and move that to 4A. So we'll go through the consent agenda pretty quickly, and then he'll be the first one that we talk to. He took the time to come. He deserves the first spot. So is that okay with you? Okay. All right, very good. So with that change to the agenda, is there a motion to accept?
I move that we accept the agenda as stated.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been seconded. Roll call.
Manager Stottmiller,
Aye.
Manager Baki,
Aye.
Manager Takes,
Aye.
Manager Schmaltz.
Aye.
President Anderson.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Next item is consent agenda. Any changes or comments on the minutes from April 9th? I'm hearing none. Is there a motion to accept the minutes?
I'll move that we accept the consent agenda as stated.
The entire consent agenda?
Yeah, the
Okay,
entire.
all right, very good. And who seconded? Did you second?
I can second.
Okay. All right, roll call, please.
All right, Manager Stottmiller,
Aye.
Manager Baki,
Aye.
Manager Takes,
Aye.
Manager Schmaltz.
Aye.
President Anderson.
Aye. All right, let's move on then to new business. And the first item will be the Wet Rock Porch additions. Applicability of lake buffer requirement.
President Anderson, I can address this board item. Mr. Whitrock would like to place a 192 square foot porch addition onto his home, which is located on the west side of Lake Keewatin. This required a variance from the ordinary high water level from the city of Forest Lake. If a variance is required for a structure setback, that can trigger our buffer rule. So what the board needs to determine today is whether that addition of the porch will have a measurable adverse impact on Lake Keewatin. If it does not, it does not require a permit from us. If it's determined that it does, then he would need a permit, a buffer permit from us. It's the opinion of both of district staff, the district engineer, and the district attorney that this 192 square foot addition, porch addition would not have a measurable adverse impact. It is on a 1.5 square foot or 1.5 acre lot. And there is only about 7% impervious surface, and the porch would be going onto the east side of the home, parallel to the lake. So it would not be decreasing the distance from structure to lake. And also it is located on a sandy loam soil that has good drainage, Matamidi Kingsley complex. And there's also downstream of the proposed addition, a native planting along the shoreline. So that is the district staff and district engineer's opinion. And then Mr. Whitrock also has some additional background that he would like to present to the board.
Sure. Go ahead.
Did anyone get a packet of information?
Yes.
Okay.
And that included all of your submittals this week.
Oh, okay. So I'll just briefly go through some of the history on here. You know, a very interesting history. The lot was plotted back in 1924. And two lots have a Torrance and two lots have a abstract title. So abstract title, they give you all the history. So it was very interesting reading through there about two of those lots and how some people got in trouble and had to go to court and there's judgments. So it was a very interesting piece of history. But anyway, our cabin was put on there in and around 1928. Reason I know it was right around there is when I did I did a renovation in 1991. In one of the corners, I found some tucked up newspaper which was used for insulation. So it was dated 1928. That's when I figured there. 1959, the cabin was expanded to become a 2-room house with septic and a full bathroom. The reason I know that was 1959 was some of the granddaughters of the former owner came to my house and gave me a packet of black and white photographs dated 1959 as they were constructing this. So, and then in '89 we purchased and, I've lived there since then. So, I've done several, as I was mentioning to the Commissioner to my right, I've done several, improvements. And now I'm redoing those, mainly paint and fixing paint board. Anyway, in, 2003. Did a big addition of a separate garage, because of the topography. It is a two-level garage with a drive-in on the road and a workshop down below. Part of that variance was also a porch. Circumstances at that time prevented me from building it. So I'm asking for variance now with a porch that's significantly smaller than the one that was approved in 2003 and it's not, I designed it so that it is it's not as far to the lake and designed it so that all trees will remain. So there'd be I like the trees in the front of the house, and so we designed it to keep those in place.
Just one quick correction, Mr. Whitrock, we're not requesting a variance at this time, only determining if the rule is applicable.
Understood.
Yep.
I apologize for that. So all of this was looked at earlier. It's 192 square feet. And part of the what I have done to improve on the property is to contain and reduce runoff from the road, capture the runoff from the roofs, and slow that as it migrates down to the lake. The garage is piped in the history here. You can see I added a rain garden along Keewatin that captures runoff. We're at a kind of the bottom of a slope, and the city when they had was the township, when they paved it, they actually tipped it towards the lake and runoff got worse. So we put the rain garden there to capture that runoff. I have taken the impervious surfaces of the driveway and a parking pad and converted that to pervious pavers along Keewatin, and those are piped into the rain garden. So at least half of the lot now captures the rainwater and brings it into a rain garden. The other improvements I've done is worked with the watershed to create a buffer on the shoreline. And that I'm gonna try and increase that so it gets up to the break where the slope goes. I want to say it's because I want to improve the water quality, but it's mainly because it's a bear cat to. But we do enjoy the native plantings that are on that shoreline. And the third thing that I have done is I've added a dry creek bed, along with working with the watershed district staff, for their recommendations to capture the rainwater from the garage and the roof and slow that down. There's 2 basins in there that slow it down, and I'm a retired architect. And in one of my, I redesigned the 3rd Precinct Police Station in Minneapolis, and part of that renovation was they had I captured I'm reusing great big slabs of limestone that came off that with the top slab on it. The top slab is where all the fronds and other things fossilized, it's like on the Twin State. So I captured that and made dry creek bed and used those slabs to create a waterfall between those two. So it actually works. I was surprised.
Great.
Anyway, with that in mind, I will be taking at least one of the roof gutters off this porch and piping it into that system.
Okay,
And I'm trying to figure out how to take care of the other half, where that would go. But in that, with that in place, you know, I would like to say that with permeable paver sidewalks, a permeable paver patio that I put in, just last year, runoff and into the lake is negligible at this point. So I would propose, or I would ask that, and I agree with Mr. Sandon, that the measurable effects on the lake
mhm,
are being mitigated.
sure. Any questions of the board, from the board, I mean? No?
President Anderson,
Yes, Mr. Baki, go ahead.
Mr. Whitbrock, I do have a question regarding your porch. Will it be enclosed or will it be an open porch?
It is an open porch.
And it appears that it's not on the lake side of the house, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Well, I just want to make a comment. It's really a pleasure having someone like you come in and talk about this, the concern that you have for your surrounding and what you've done already and what you're planning to do. Yeah, it's been fun listening to that and understanding that, you know, these things that we do are for protecting not just you, the homeowner, but also obviously the lake and all of that. But you've already incorporated so many of those good practices. It's gonna be an honor. I'm going to make the motion that we follow our experts' advice and we move. I will move that, am I doing the right one?
Top one.
There we go. It's up one. Yeah, I don't wanna read that one. That's the no one. I move that in the board's judgment, the proposed porch addition at 20703 Keewatin Avenue North is not likely to have a measurable adverse impact on gradient lake, stream, and or water function. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any further? One last chance. Comments or questions? All right, roll call.
All right, Manager Stottmuller,
Aye.
Manager Baki,
Aye.
Manager Taves,
Aye.
Manager Schmaltz.
Aye.
President Anderson.
Aye. Thank you.
Good,
It was
nice
really
job.
fun listening to what you've done here.
Thank you very much. Your work is, your work is good. I support all of this.
Good.
We already said yes.
No, I'm just kidding.
I'll follow up with you tomorrow.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Nice to meet you.
All right, next item will be the Amberley Woods. Would it be?
Thank you, President Anderson. I can give an introduction and then turn it over to Dr. Wilkinson for a more in-depth discussion. Amberley Woods is a proposed 56 lot subdivision for single-family homes. It's located along the intersection of Goodview Avenue and Georgia Avenue North. Total lot size is 15.6 acres. And it triggers our stormwater management, erosion control, and wetland buffer rules. Stormwater management will be met through one large stormwater pond. Sediment erosion control will be met through standard practices. And any lot sold to individual builders will require permit transfers and lot specific erosion control plans as well. And then, as you can see on the shown plan, there's also numerous wetlands on site, including 5 managed 3, which is our lowest quality wetlands, which require the minimum buffer of 25 feet. 4 managed 2, which require a 50-foot buffer, and then 2 managed 1, which is our second highest quality wetlands, requiring a 75-foot buffer. All of these buffer widths have been met, through variable width buffering. I'll turn it over to, Dr. Wilkinson for discussion of the stormwater.
Sure. Good evening, President and managers. So this permit is a bit unique in that most of the drainage is actually going into Rice Creek Watershed District. However, since the parcel is within our district, we are dealing with the permit, but we also will say that this has happened before. Properties and parcels often cross boundaries, and so I just wanted to let everyone know we did discuss this with Rice Creek early in the process, so they're also on board and understand the drainage here. So we have this site. The primary treatment is that large stormwater pond that you can see over to the northwest of the site. It is providing the required volume control and also providing the required rate control for all the impervious on the site. We also require that they demonstrate not only buffer width for the wetlands, but that there's no changes in bounce and inundation of those wetlands to make sure that we're not impacting the hydrology, and they demonstrated that as well. During construction, we also look at if they are providing erosion control for perimeter control, stockpiles, silt fences around impervious areas and wetlands, construction, rock construction entrances. All of those have been submitted and are within our rules. And then we also, as Mike had said, reviewed the buffers, and those are also meeting the rules. Another thing I want to note about this is that they are using a stormwater pond. In order to use a stormwater pond, they have to prove that other types of BMPs, including infiltration and filtration, are not feasible. And then we check that to make sure. And then that stormwater pond is assessed a conversion factor in order for it to provide equivalent treatment to those more preferred methods in cases like this where the soils are not conducive to infiltration and the grades are very flat, and also the water table is really high. So they provide all the requirements for that, and this is the most protective of both the resource and feasibility of the site condition. Anybody have any questions?
I do have a question, Dr. Wilkinson. 56 single-family home lots on a 15-acre site. It seems like a lot. What is the average size of the lot for each individual lot?
That's a good question. You can kind of see how close together that they are. So these, if you can look on the exhibit here, the yellow is the impervious area. And so you can see the road coming here, and then these boxes are proposed lots. Obviously, they're not building all the houses at once. This is just a development, but they are quite close together.
So what is the size of the individual lot?
That's a good question.
I mean, they must be quite small.
Scale
If it's only
here.
15
They're quite
acres.
small.
These are all urban though, correct? These are all of this is in the city boundary.
That is correct. So this is in, we have a map I can pull up here. and
Yeah,
show
it
you.
doesn't, it appears it's very close to Forest Hills Golf Course.
Yes, it is.
I didn't hear that. What's close to a golf course? Is that what you said?
Forest Hills Golf Course.
Oh, Forest Hills. Okay,
Kind of kitty corner to Chestnut.
okay. But they're
Yeah.
keeping golf course. Yeah, okay.
And do these conform to the 10-foot property line setbacks on either side?
That is a good question. Oh, I'm not sharing. I'm so
Or
sorry.
did the city give them a variance on that?
No variance
No.
is required. And property line setbacks would not trigger our rule.
No, but I'm just kind of curious in terms of whether the city allow the spacing to be 10 feet between the houses or 20 feet between them. The code says 20 feet between the houses. So in other words, 10 feet from your property line, so the minimum you can get. And I'm just wondering, that doesn't impact us, I guess, but they look so close together that you could.
But that's what urban housing looks like here, you know, and you can go, and anywhere really. I mean, there's barely, you could jump from one house window to the other, and the other piece. That's that close. So.
Yeah, the density in this area is pretty high, as you can see.
Mhm.
So this empty area is the proposed space.
I
And
think
then if
that's the thing to live with is that it looks like people are so cramped. But that's every housing development within a metro area. It's just an urban area. It's just so tight. They're maximizing, of course, their profit, but people on
Just-
top of each other almost.
Yeah, the trails.
Mhm.
Well, it doesn't make it, I'll make the motion that we move to approve the permit application 25019. Most conditions stated in EOR is April 7th, 2026, permit application number 25019. Forest Lake memorandum.
Is there a second?
Yep, I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, Tori, please.
All right, Manager Schottenmiller,
Aye.
Manager Baki,
I will abstain.
Manager Takes,
Aye.
Manager Schmaltz.
Aye.
President Anderson.
Aye. Thank you, passes. This is 4-5 vote, you've got that, or 4-1. All right, the next item,
Need to go back to 4.
yeah, okay, thank you. There it is. All right, we are now ready for, the 4A permit 25-015.
President Anderson, permit 25/015 is named Havenwood. It is, phase 2 of the Chestnut Creek development. It will be for 119 single-family homes. It's located, on the north side of, Chestnut Creek Phase 1, at the end of Greystone Avenue North, 207th Street North and 208th Street North. It would functionally serve as a continuation of the platting and development under the land, under the compass of permit 16008. Therefore, it is held accountable for original requirements of that permit, including outstanding permit fee balance and compensation of the encroach buffer from phase 1. The permittee has already submitted, a check to cover the vast majority of that outstanding balance. And then they have also made up the outstanding buffer violations from phase 1. Meaning that they have satisfied those outstanding issues. I'll hand it over to Anne for a more in-depth conversation about the stormwater and buffers.
Sure. President and managers, this is another development that was just right northeast of what I just showed you on the map. So this is technically a second phase of a development that was already put in and approved. The stormwater facilities on this development were already graded as part of phase 1. So they're already graded and are actively there, but now they're going to be, they're going to make them functional. So install inlet and stormwater infrastructure. These facilities meet rate control to all areas that is discharging from the site itself. And then they are meeting volume control by quite a bit. Which is great news. They are, for these type of facilities, they're using a combination of a stormwater pond and then a filtration bench, which give them some extra water quality benefit, which is great. These are the same type of BMPs that were used in the past development. And then I will talk about the buffers a little bit more. The the past development had some encroachment issues, about 0.9 acres in phase one, and we asked them to compensate for that in phase two, or came to that agreement, and now they're providing 1.02 additional acres of wetland buffer above and beyond the requirements for this phase to compensate for that encroachment. And each of the buffer additions each wetland on site is getting additional buffer. So that's also good. They're distributing that additional buffer amongst all the wetlands. I will say that additionally, there is a really high quality wetland that's in the south part of the property that you can kind of see here, and it's getting a lot of buffer around it, which is really good. All of their erosion control is in line with our requirements, and they are also providing a revegetation plan that also meets our requirements. I'll also say too that this permit application is really fixing some problems that had occurred in phase one, and so we're very pleased to have sort of these additional protections, and also kind of turn some agricultural land in the Shields Lake watershed into some treated facilities that's providing a lot of treatment for this impervious area.
Is that it? Are you done?
That's it. Yes. I'll
Okay,
take any
okay.
questions.
Yeah, are there any questions? Comments? I'd like to make one, and maybe you have an answer to it, maybe you don't, but when this kind of activity is occurring and they're all kind of in the same quadrant, aren't they? I mean, maybe not right next to each other, but have you, or do you, as an engineer, calculate out the combined impact to either the surface areas or water underneath? These are all wetlands, right? Where soil is being amended or new soil being brought in. And when you have this kind of growth this fast in that type of an area, I just wonder what happens with that water channeling under the ground.
That is an interesting point. I will say that these two developments actually are draining in different ways. So that first development was draining to Rice Creek watershed primarily, and this one is the vast majority of it is draining into Shields Lake. The wetlands that are on site are being protected and well buffered, and then this site was actually some agricultural land previous to this development. So we do believe that, our rules in this case are making a big difference in converting previously untreated agricultural land to pre-development conditions, which is what is required for these new developments.
Okay, and it's the city's responsibility, obviously, if they overbook, if you will, activity in a particular area, and it does have consequences, then that's on them. We don't play a part in that step if it happens.
In terms of density, that's correct.
And
But
yeah.
we do have rules about impervious area and how that is treated. So.
Mhm. So what does that mean? Does that mean that if something blows up, we're part of it, or we're not part of it? That activity. I just, again, it goes back to that question is how much can you do without impacting, the water levels, how much pressure can you take from up on top, for example, without it finding a crack or something in the ground and blowing it out? That's what I'm concerned with right now, is that if we overdevelop, then we're asking for additional problems down the road. So that's all I'm saying.
President Anderson,
Yes.
I appreciate your questions because that is my concern as well. What is the impact of this urban development, if we want to call it that, on the wetlands and the lands around us? That is my concern as well. So thank you for your questions.
But I think basically the purpose we have rules is to restore the land back to the agricultural or improve the stormwater runoff so it's as good or better than it was as an agricultural field. So and hearing Dr. Wilkinson, they've actually exceeded those requirements, so it's actually better than it was when it was an agricultural field.
Well, for this lot, but the prior lot, there were all of those breaks in the rules. So they're making up for some of that, or not all of it, it sounds like, in this new development. But that's for this part, what about that one that all of the breaks happened in? And then,
What breaks?
well, they had not followed the rules and they had encroached upon the
buffers.
wetland areas,
Right,
yeah.
right,
Uh-huh.
right. But they actually made up for it in this particular section.
Well, I know, but if the problem's over here and you make it up
Right.
over here, this doesn't get what it needs. So anyway, I bring it up, we talked about it, I understand it, and the burden I'm interpreting it is the cities, if that failure occurs for overdevelopment, not ours. Okay, all right, well, we'll just face it when it happens, I guess. All right, there's a motion on the floor. There's no other questions or comments. And who would like to make the motion?
I'll move to approve permit application number 25-015 with conditions stated in EOR's April 16th, 2026 permit application number 25-015 Forest Lake memorandum.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, any further comments? Last chat, Mike?
Madam President, there are several members of the public that are, or people on the Zoom call. I don't know if
okay.
anybody,
Okay.
we haven't,
Yeah,
anybody wants to raise their hand and speak one way or the other to the matter,
Yeah.
perhaps.
yeah, absolutely. I don't see that, so thank you for bringing that up. Do we have anyone that's visiting tonight, who wants to address this issue or any issue?
Yeah,
But we have to take care of this one first, though.
They
on
can raise their hand, well,
on the table.
yeah. Part of the discussion, they would need to raise their hand and then we can unmute them.
All right, did everyone hear that? If you want to speak, just raise the hand on the system and on your computer, and our folks will call you out.
Looks like Emily sent a text message or a chat to everybody too. So
Okay, good.
President Anderson, I can make one comment towards the wetland concerns. The main high quality of wetlands that we were discussing for both developments are actually interconnected. So
Okay.
the highest quality part of the wetlands on both highest quality and most contiguous are receiving the highest level of protection.
So it's a nature park, basically, right, where they're not supposed to be?
Yeah, they were delineated as wetlands, so they have pretty significant protection.
Okay, and how do you stop encroachment like the other?
We have made
Yeah.
changes to our protocol,
Okay.
so the main thing we've done is installation of buffer signs
Okay,
before construction, so people know where that is when
Mhm.
they're looking at the lots.
Are
and
they set in ground or set in concrete?
They're set in the ground. So yeah, they could be moved.
so occasional visual
We
drive-bys
also
or something
do,
you're taking care of?
district staff also take a look at the buffers that have a maintenance declaration yearly.
Okay.
Either on site or if we have the aerial imagery to
Mhm.
do it aerial, which is actually preferred.
Okay, all right, good, so we're monitoring it all. Okay, did we do the?
We did not do a roll call.
Okay, please start.
All right, Manager Schottenmiller,
Aye.
Manager Bucky,
I will abstain.
Manager Tate,
Aye.
Manager Schmaltz.
Aye.
President Anderson.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, I think we're done with that section in business, right? Now we-
Watershed management.
Oh, there we go. Watershed Management Plan Amendment Presentation.
And President Manager, have Emily go through this?
Thank you, Madam President, Managers. So this is for our watershed management plan amendment. Part of the process is to have a public meeting, not necessarily a public hearing, but just at our regular public meeting to give a presentation of the proposed amendments. And then we will also accept any comments that any members of the public wish to share at the end of that. So, I presented a summary of this last time around, but we'll have this on the record and on the recording, and I'll just go through the proposed amendments again. So our plan itself identifies how we proceed with plan amendments, kind of how we do it, and basically creating new pages that can be inserted into the main plan and numbered appropriately, and then showing new text as underlined and remove text as stricken through. So kind of in the early part of the plan, we talk about our mission statement. So we've revised the mission statement per the mission statement adopted last spring and make reference to the strategic plan. So revising the mission statement in these two places. And then, as discussed at the last meeting, adding in some inserted new pages that kind of provide that detail from the strategic plan, the mission, vision, and values. And then also went ahead and added the text that was noted at the last meeting of innovative scientific approaches, outstanding outcomes. This will be a new page insert. Further down in the plan, when we get to the introduction, revising the mission statement there as well, and then adding cost efficient in this text box that talks about our adaptive management principles and so on. And then skipping down into the implementation plan itself and in the project section, just clarifying the text and using kind of these standard words that we've been using for the Green Belt and Open Space Initiative. Which we'll be talking about during the budgeting process this year and getting into that some more. And then adding a new implementation item for floodplain resiliency implementation. So making reference to the floodplain resilience action plan framework and the strategies that are identified therein. Obviously, we haven't finalized that action plan framework yet, but what we're hoping to do is finalize that plan before we finalize this plan amendment. So hopefully at the next meeting, we'll finalize that action plan framework. And then we are looking to adopt the plan amendment at the June 11th meeting. This is just an overflow. Since they're insert pages, if the text gets bumped, you have to kind of create a new page. So, the pagination gets kind of messed up with the inserted text. So this is just no changes here, pagination. And then skipping down to the Comfort Lake Management District, we've got the East Comfort Pond project and the Broadway Avenue Iron Enhanced Sand Filter project, projects that are grant dependent. We have a grant in hand for East Comfort Pond. And, this is really the big reason why we want to do this amendment now is we're undergoing the feasibility for that. But before we order the project, it is best to have is very clearly called out in our 10-year plan. So we'll reference this during the project ordering as part of our standard project process. And then the Iron Enhanced Sand Filter, same thing. If that grant is awarded, we'll be working closely with the City of Forest Lake on that and having a home for it in the plan to be referenced in all of the legal proceedings.
Can you, Emily, on that last one that you just talked about, the Iron Enhanced sand filter on Broadway, you said? Mm-hmm. Can you just give a brief overview of what that entails?
Sure. So this was one of the two Clean Water Fund competitive grant applications we submitted this spring. So we had talked about it at an earlier board meeting this year. And basically, there is this project that was done over 10 years ago now, just north of Broadway Avenue, in the city of Forest Lake, kind of in that urban corridor. And then that drains through a network of ditches and into the Sunrise River and Comfort Lake. And this is just a project that was, it was in the early days of iron enhanced sand filters, and it was designed under specifications that we would not do anymore. We've learned a lot of lessons in recent years as to how iron enhanced sand filters should be designed. And this one is not functioning as a modern sand filter should be functioning. And so we could get a lot more benefit out of it if we were to basically remove that media from the filter bed and replace it with a mix that is up to modern specifications.
Mhm. It is a good program though, and I do remember that one too. We had all kinds of issues, but that's what happens when you're trying something new. And so I'm glad that the scientists have figured that out and we can keep using it. The method is. All right, thank you.
Yep. And then the last couple pages are just, making sure that it's all reflected in our 10-year cost table. Just estimated costs. I've got them highlighted. We can zoom in if you want, but really it's more for when you're actually reading the plan and you want to go into the numbers. So
Yeah, and it's on the website.
yes.
Okay.
Okay. And then here's just the reminder about accepting public comment. And like we noted earlier, any folks in the audience wishing to speak, you can use the reactions toolbar to raise your hand, and we can call on you to unmute you.
All
I'm
right,
not seeing
so
any raised hands.
Yeah, I'm going to ask the public or visitors that are on one more time, if you have any comments on this particular item. Please do as Emily just explained. Raise your hand on your computer system and we'll entertain your comments. Thank you. Anything showing up, Emily? Nothing? All
No
right.
raised hands.
All right, very good. Well, let's move on.
President Anderson?
Yes, go ahead, Manager Baki.
I'm just reminded about how well we crafted our mission statement, and I really like the way it shows up here in this document. I want to read it. The mission of the Comfort Lake Forest Lake Watershed District is to protect and enhance local ecosystems and natural water resources. That's something we should probably recite at the beginning of each of our meetings, just as a reminder of what we are striving for. And I think we did a good job with that.
Thank you. Yes, I agree. And I think the whole board agrees. It was a lot of work, but and there were some ups and downs and possibly some variances between managers, but it all came out right. And yeah, so I agree with you. It does need to be used much more frequently. I don't know if we have to say it at every meeting, but certainly on every document that we produce, we should have our mission statement. Yes.
Is there any value to submitting that with any of our grant requests? As just an informational sheet? I was impressed, just like Dave was, when I hadn't seen it for 6 months, and when I read through it, reads pretty darn well. I think it fits with what we believe and what we've demonstrated over the years.
Yeah.
And I think other people are going to be impressed with that too, and give you some additional confidence in what we're asking for the grant. I don't know, just a thought.
Madam President, Manager, that's a good suggestion as we look at future grants, especially when there are entities that we have not done applications with in the past and don't have any.
Don't know us.
Yeah, I think that mission statement is small enough that we can put it on just about everything like a tagline. It's really powerful.
But the value statements are one of the ones that I like, because that's really where how the work gets done. And when you look at those, it does tend to build confidence, I think, if they assume it's true.
Yeah.
That's the other question.
All right, well, we can work on that communication.
President Anderson?
Yes,
If I may ask, Manager Jim, I don't know if you've had time to even look at the document, but what are your thoughts about that document that has collaboration and community engagement, fiscal accountability, and so on, is in a circular fashion? Do you have any impressions?
No, this is great. In fact, I am, one of the first things I did when I joined the board, before I was, sworn in, I went out and looked for the mission statement, mission, vision, values, and so, I think this is super important. If we do the same thing at my day job, and if you write a good mission, vision, values, and the mission here is good, because it should be the filter that everything goes through, and that means, and in fact, we're talking about water resources. I think that's amusing that it's the filter, but if you should be able to put it through that, and if it doesn't fit, then it's not right for us. So that's the only, I mean, the question I had when I read it and the change was, what did you not like about, because I wasn't part of the discussion, what did you not like about the old mission statement? And what did you try to repair it with to make it more applicable? Because the only thing I really saw that was significantly different was ecosystems. And so I'm just trying to figure out, when I was reading through it, I was trying to figure out, what are we trying to loop in that we didn't feel was looped in before, or was it just clarification? Do we
Well,
remember? Yeah, I'm sorry,
it
it's a
really-
year ago.
I was just, well, I was just thinking about what our statement was before, and it really had more to do with adaptive management and
Right.
education. And so this one had the purpose, I think, more compressed and actually, the target of why we exist. So I think that was a dramatic change. Those other things are processes
Right.
that we use, to get to the goals. But it doesn't give the public a really concise, very short elevator version of why we exist. So that's my take on it.
I love that, and the reason I say that is because I'm in my little department at my day job, I had the same epiphany
Mhm.
that I was focused on the efforts
Mhm.
when, in order to achieve a goal.
Yeah.
And I realized that there's a disconnect between, I kept focusing, okay, what are the efforts?
Right.
And then, why am I not getting my goal? Well, focus on the goal,
Mhm.
and then you get the goal.
Exactly.
So, no, that's great. Thanks for asking. Manager Baki?
Emily, could you put that first page up that you showed where we showed the change of the old vision, mission,
Yeah.
and then the new one? I just want to make a point here that kind of following up on what you said. So if you look at this, down where the vision statement is, where you have it underlined. Okay.
This is the mission statement.
Yeah, okay, so there it is. That's the old vision statement. Actually, it's not a vision statement, it's a mission statement.
Right.
We never did have a vision statement, and we never had values.
Mhm.
So all we had was that's underlined right there. And it's very similar to the mission statement we have today. Right? It's just a different wording on it. It's shorter.
Right.
So the mission's the same, but the vision and the values are more visible and well-defined, articulated. So, and I think that both the vision and the values adds a lot. Especially when you look at having to work with cities and other of our partners, that's a really important part of the whole thing, and that's a part of the vision. So I think that we've struggled with. So.
Not any longer. I mean, we always acted on that. That was a long sentence that you saw.
Mhm.
With.
We acted that way,
the
but we
part
never
I
had
read was-
writing.
Was just
Yeah.
there. Yeah, well, it was in different ways, but we condensed it all so that it's just saying exactly what we exist to do.
Thank you, Emily.
Okay, so, are we done with this one? Emily, any more that you need to do or say or read?
Nothing further. That was just the presentation. We'll have an action at a future board meeting.
Okay. And let's make note that we had no public coming forward with any comments or questions.
So this was not a public meeting though, right?
Well, we have public here.
Okay, just clarifying.
All right, so let's move on to number 5, old business. And A is flood plan resilience, action plan and framework.
Madam President, managers, just a reminder that if anybody online, that there are several people that we don't have their last names and we don't know who they're associated with, but if they have any comments that they would like to submit, they could be so either in the chat or by email, to either board or staff, otherwise, but.
I think it would be, well, they can send it to whoever they want to, but it probably is best to do it either to you, our administrator, or Emily, and their information is online as well on the website.
Okay, next item is floodplain resilience action plan, and so this evening, we just kind of wanted to, I guess, something of a refresher. Emily and Eric from EOR are here to kind of go to present the material along with Dr. Wilkinson. Emily, you want to lead it off?
Thank you. Madam President, managers. So, yes, this is multifaceted. We want to just at a minimum bring this back up. I had done a pre-recorded presentation online. I could run through some of those slides really quickly here too, if we want to revisit some of them live and then have some discussion, and then talk about the action plan framework itself and the correspondence we've had with the city of Forest Lake, and looking at ultimately finalizing that plan and proceeding with the next phase, which we've already lined up a grant to fund that work. So.
Emily, before you go any further, can you just do, or Mike, just do that concise overview of what this project is? It's a very big project for any district and why we're doing it. So could you please address those 2 things?
Yeah. In a nutshell, it's our climate is changing. Minnesota, and particularly our region of Minnesota, is going to be seeing heavier rain events, wetter springs, and more risk of flooding. And so this is our attempt to plan ahead and be proactive, because studies show that taking a proactive approach and investing funds on the front end saves a lot of money on the tail end. It's more cost effective to be proactive than to be reactive when it comes to climate resiliency. So that's what we're looking to do here.
Yep, and it's particularly important because this kind of excess water running through the streams and lakes and so on, and flooding of agricultural fields are the reasons that this district exists. And so it's very important. And again, it's district wide. So we're not just doing a particular area. Obviously, you have to work area by area, but the intent is to resolve these issues for the entire district. So thank you. I'll turn it back to you.
Okay. I pulled a few slides from the pre-recorded presentation, and we can just go through those quick to set the stage. And feel free to ask questions as we go, managers, and we can have the discussion as we go. So yes, we're kind of looking at the conditions that we have in the Comfort Lake Forest Lake Watershed District, our unique watershed district. I'm going to give an overview of the planning process, kind of a recap of what we've accomplished, where we want to go from here. And I just had seen this cartoon online of really in a nutshell of why you want to do this kind of planning, because natural systems are, naturally resilient to flooding. They're meant to flood. It's a natural thing that happens. But when you go in and develop, that changes things, and then it's the houses that get flooded rather than the trees. So next, I pulled a few slides from a University of Minnesota presentation from recently, the Climate Adaptation Partnership, that I think really summarized succinctly what we're talking about here. So to place us within the state of Minnesota, we're kind of up here. Oh, sorry, they're advancing automatically. We're up here in the Northeast Metro, and we are going to be seeing wetter springs, and even getting wetter and wetter as we get toward the end of the century, from 2040 to the end of the century there. So heavier rain events and wetter springs. And they did a poll, and really the majority of Minnesotans are concerned. They want to see action, and they think that local, state, and municipal governments are responsible for doing something. And so there is, in the state of Minnesota, a lot of support for this. And some of the effects that you can see of these wetter springs, you're going to see wastewater overflows into lakes and streams. And, wastewater is one thing, but also we talk a lot about stormwater and shoreline health. These heavy rains can produce pollution in a lot of different ways, and they can result in erosion of lake shores. We had quantified through our modeling in our area, miles of roads and residential properties and buildings that we anticipate being flooded. And we've also seen that insurance rates are increasing, and rates in Minnesota specifically are higher than average. I think 38% higher than the national average. And so it is more cost effective to be proactive than to be reactive. This original slide, it said that for every dollar invested, Minnesotans get about $8.50 of public benefits. And then just this spring, MPCA published a study saying that, it's 8 to 15 times more costly to address the effects of flooding and other climate-related issues than it is to pay for upfront projects. And we know that when you're building projects up front, they can provide a lot of different multiple benefits. And we've seen that already with a lot of the district's projects, that in the past, our primary focus has been water quality, but they have had multiple benefits already in that some store floodwaters, like that Sunrise River wetland restoration on that tax forfeit property that the district owns. It was primarily a water quality project, but it also helps provide flood storage, and which is helpful for resiliency. So here's our process. I'm just going to kind of get all of the things on the screen here. But this is the process that we went through. You kind of start with this really coarse level of detail, and you're looking at our 50 square mile area and kind of wondering where you should prioritize. And so we started with flood hazard mapping, just to identify kind of where the water collects. And then we, from there, overlaid a bunch of other layers through GIS to figure out what are going to be the highest impact areas for where is that water pooling and who is being affected by that, whether it's roads, it's people's residences, it could be adverse impacts to natural resources. So we looked at a lot of available data, and we came up with this map that prioritized areas that we wanted to go further into, because we have a hydrologic and hydraulic model, the H&H model. We just recently, in the last couple of years, updated it district-wide. It was a big undertaking, but that's really just step one, is to have the model. It's ready to go, it's calibrated and updated, but it takes time and money to run various scenarios in the model. And so we found that it would be very costly to run all of the scenarios for every subwatershed district-wide. And so this course screening kind of helped us identify where's the areas of biggest need where we need to really run this model first. And no surprise, it was in kind of the more developed section of the watershed in the city of Forest Lake in that Sunrise River corridor, where we know that we have a lot of development and it's right up against a lot of wetlands. And those wetlands have been artificially drained over the years with ditches. And so all of that kind of comes together to create some risk for flooding. So we ran some modeling and we got some really good detailed results and some quantified estimates of, under these future rainfall scenarios, here's who's going to be impacted. Here's the roads that might be washed out. Here are the culverts that probably aren't big enough. And how does the system, this very complex system, how does it react to a situation where there is too much rain? So that is what we got for this, small area of kind of Forest Lake and the Shields Lake area. And from there, EOR identified some potential mitigation activities. So we know kind of where the problem is. Then you ask, what do you do about it? What can you do about it? And especially in this area, it is so densely developed. There's not an obvious, build a giant pond here and that fixes everything. It's kind of a little bit here, a little bit there, and upgrading the system so that it all works together to process water faster and better without just shooting the problem downstream to the next person. So that was the purpose of this action plan framework. It is a very early look at these potential projects and mitigation strategies. We don't have cost estimates yet. There is further work that needs to be done in order to kind of flesh these projects out some more. But as part of that, before we really started diving into any one particular project, we sent this to the city of Forest Lake. They reviewed, they had some comments, which we'll get into. And, a lot of the projects will really require the city as a partner. So that back and forth with them has been, I think, really critical to the process. So we're at a good stage now. And kind of from here, a lot of it is a process that we're familiar with of having project concepts, applying for grants, implementing projects, using partnerships is going to be even more important now than ever to leverage some of these bigger and different grant sources that we haven't used in the past. So we're building those partnerships and trying to identify those projects. We can get into the design storm if we want, but you can really just see if you look at kind of existing conditions versus what we estimated as the future conditions. In a nutshell, it is more inches of rain for any given rain event that you would see on this time frame. So every year you would expect under old conditions to have a 2.5 inch rainfall. Now every year it's probably closer to 3 inches. Or at the more extreme end, a 100-year rain event, or a rain event so big it would probably only come around every 100 years. That super big rain event used to be about 7 inches. Now it's over 9 inches, we are estimating, kind of as we see rainfall trends increase. And I will just note, we, as part of the plan and the red lines and our back and forth with the city, one of the big pieces of data that we would like to have and that is forthcoming is what we're calling what is called Atlas 15. It comes from the federal government, and right now we're using Atlas 14, which is our rainfall atlas, which gives us these numbers of how to estimate what the rain event will be. And Atlas 15 is supposed to incorporate all of this climate change data and tell us what these new rain events will look like. It's not available yet. We didn't want to wait for it to become available. So that was a really early thing that we went through with our partners, was figuring out, okay, let's all make sure we're using the same numbers when we're estimating future rainfall. How much are we actually talking about? And some other folks were using the 90th percentile or 90% confidence interval of Atlas 14, so kind of the upper end of the spectrum of Atlas 14. But we just know that some new data is going to come out and we're going to want to relook at these numbers and compare how close were our best approximations to what kind of is going to be the general agreed upon standard.
So Emily, can I ask just a question?
Mhm.
So one of the things the city's concerned about is that they're using a different standard, which they're saying is the state set standard and the federal standard for flood, and we're exceeding that, and they don't like that because it puts more pressure, more loss of developmental land because it'll be underwater. So can you explain, what are the federal and state standards based upon? So if we're at a 90 percentile to get to the future, are they using Atlas 14, but like at a 66 percentile or some lower level? So, because why is our 90% so much higher than what the federal and state standards use today? That's been a big concern. I don't understand where that comes from and why it's different. So maybe it's not that important, but it seems to me it's a big point of controversy with the city.
It's pretty important. I mean, you've got to
Yeah.
have a standard that everybody agrees to. So, yeah,
Ann, can you answer that, or Mike, or?
And we have Eric here too. And I would say, Eric, feel free to jump in, but I think Steve's question, it's not so much there's a state standard, there's a federal standard. It's, the current federal general agreed upon standard, everyone knows it's out of date, and the updated one isn't available. So we're trying to have a mutual agreement on what we're using. And the city's problem wasn't so much that we're using the 90th confidence interval of Atlas 14, but the notion of that we might expand our regulatory authority for it was really kind of the concern. But Eric Migao from EOR is here. Eric, go ahead if you want to add.
Yeah, Emily, I think you're correct. I don't think it's that we are using the mean values in Atlas 14 right now, which I believe the city of Forest Lake has FEMA flood areas or mapped floodplain. So that's the national mapped floodplain. But all those areas that are mapped around the city, except for the Forest Lake itself, all those other areas are zone A's, which means you're supposed to use the best available data. So when a development comes in along those areas or within those areas that are mapped as FEMA floodplain, that's where we look using our model and use the current standard, which is that Atlas 14 mean value. Now that Atlas 14 mean value got published right around 2010, and that was an update from 1970. And what we realized was it went from 5.9 in about 1970 to this 6.97 inches in 2010. At that time, we were thinking, wow, based on the most recent rainfall, this 100-year or 1% chance rain event, and that's kind of what you might want to think about the 100-year event. Not that you're going to get it every 100 years, but that there's a 1% chance that you could get a rain event of that intensity or that depth. So when they increased that, everybody thought, okay, this is a trend. And the state climatologists also agreed that this is a trend. We're getting more intense rain. We're getting larger rain events. We're hitting those 1% rainfalls more and more often. Let's take another look at this data. And that's why Atlas 15 is coming out, not 50 years from now, but it's supposed to be coming out in September this year. And that 6.9 might go up to 7.2 or 7.3 based on this new data that they're going to be looking at in the last 10 years. Also with that, they're actually going to publish what they think are 50 and 100-year estimates, where Atlas 14, the current standard that NOAA set out, didn't look at those. So that's where I think the city just doesn't want us to use the future conditions as the current flood map. And I think that was their big. Sorry, go ahead, Madam President.
But it's coming out in September, you said, right? The 15, Atlas 15? And
At
so
least-
won't we all have the same book to go to with the standards that are?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, so we're not that
You-
far away from it.
No, and I think where the city's pushed back, and I don't want to put words in their mouth, but what we thought that they were saying was, hey, when we did this study, we mapped that 6.9 inches, right? That was our floodplain. And then we looked, here are the future conditions. We mapped what happens if that 6.9 inch event was a 9.2 inch event. And I think their worry was that we were going to put that 9.2 inch event down in their city and say, this is the new floodplain. And that's not what we were trying to do at that time. There are some
Okay.
mitigation steps we were proposing, like an overlay district where we work with, developers within maybe that future floodplain and just make sure, hey, do you have opportunities to not only build 2 feet above the existing floodplain, but maybe can you also look at the future floodplain? Because as Emily was stating before, it's a lot easier to kind of plan for it now and build resilient structures and resilient streets rather than, 30, 40 years from now and try to redo those structures. I think that's
Yeah.
what we're just trying to plan for.
Yeah, and
So-
that's been a focus of the district from the very beginning. But Steve, you had wanted to say.
Yeah, I just want to follow up with Eric's question. So, okay, the mean means that that's probably a 50 percentile then. Is that, it's been a while since I looked at my mean, median and
No.
average.
No, and it's confusing, board. That mean is, they think that there's a range that could happen when they're trying to calculate what a 100-year or 1% event is for this area, for our area. They think that number would be 6.9, 7 inches. But they think that could be as much as, 9.2 inches, which
Right.
but that's kind of the brackets that they put around it. That's kind of a statistical thing. And when we looked at some of these when we looked at some of this around 2010 and 2015, when we started kind of doing these adaptive managements or trying to do some of these resiliency studies, we talked to the state climatologist, and that 9.2 number, or that 90% confidence interval is almost like a 500-year event in some areas. So that's kind of how we tried to bracket it, but we all agreed that, hey, until we have some more data, until NOAA Atlas 15 comes out, which is just the next round of analysis with more data, that we think that we should use that 9.22, and that would give us a pretty good estimate on what a mid-century or end of century rainfall
Okay, to
event.
tie up this last loop here then. So the Atlas mean value is what the federal government and the state governments use as a standard today, which is what the city is using. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
All right,
Well,
so
I can't, I don't know what the city has in their floodplain thing, but I think they kind of seed floodplain analysis to the watershed district, and using the Atlas 14 mean value is very consistent among all of our water, or a lot of the watersheds, especially the two that the city of Forest Lake is in, which is Rice Creek and Comfort Lake, Forest Lake.
Yeah.
So when the Atlas 15 comes out, then the state and the federal government will probably use the mean value for Atlas 15, which will be undoubtedly less than 9.22 inches.
Maybe not, maybe it'll be higher. You don't know. So
That's correct. And that's what I think we're going to see. And I think what they're going to look at is they're going to base that on some other models. There's global climate modeling that's also saying, hey, if temperatures increase at the same rate for the next couple of years, or we maintain our same usage of different aspects, or we maintain growth at the same rate, and we don't make any adaptive measurements or cut back on some of these things that are maybe accelerating climate change, it has different scenarios. So I think they're putting out probably one or two different scenarios. If I remember correctly, I think it's two different scenarios that they're going to be posting where one is like a 2-degree increase, so there will be other ways, more scientifically backed, to look at that future. But the other thing that might update, and what I've seen updates in some of their pilot states, like the state of Missouri and the state of Montana, is that those mean values also went up in the last 10 years with better data and with more data. So that mean value could also go up from 6.9 to 7.2. But the future conditions is, as President said, that could go up or that could go down. It'll be interesting to see with more data if that was a conservative approach or if it was maybe too conservative.
Well, I think the thing always to reinforce with people is that you are using a scientific method to come up with those numbers. You're not just pulling it out of the air. It's based on the knowledge that we have now. My question, I don't want to say what I think it is, but this Atlas study that's done periodically to set these standards is done by region across the United States. It can't possibly be one book for everywhere.
Yeah, it's very localized. I mean, even throughout,
Okay.
it's
Okay.
it's very localized. Yep.
Yeah, it needs to be. And so we're really close to having that. I've been hearing about 15 for years now, so.
Right. Right.
It was put on the shelf, it wasn't funded, whatever. But here we are, all the way, probably 10 years into it, and we better be using more current data and not putting those old smaller rain events into the equation. The other thing I want to just mention here, there's two things really. That bottom bullet point in the blue box, the light blue box at the bottom, that really has to be reinforced about the impact of not doing this correctly and building up. You mentioned it in the other, I think it was the slide before, but the cost of not doing the right thing now and waiting until you get to those levels and your insurance rates are going to go up more than 38%. So that correlation between what we're doing and the real dollars that people would face if this action wasn't taken, if this progress doesn't move forward on making sure that our floodplains are ready to handle those bigger rain events. The other thing, it's the one with the picture of the map and the hot areas, or I think that one on the right, the result is good enough. To make the point here is that when you look at where that water is going to end up, just sort of point, if you can, at the area that's in Chisago County. Okay, and then right around Forest Lake, where a lot of, some stuff drains over too little, but Big Comfort certainly. That's where the really bad stuff is going to happen. So we've got to be thinking about that too. It's not just in Forest Lake, the biggest city, in our district. It's the downward flow of the water. So we've got to be taking all of those things into account when we're having discussions. It's not just here locally, it's throughout the district. But this has been very, very helpful. I'm looking forward to September.
Well, I interrupted Emily, so she's got more to cover.
Yeah.
So, Emily, I'm sorry to interrupt so long, but go ahead.
No, I think that was a really good
Later on,
discussion.
this is a basic concern of mine about this whole project, so we'll talk about it later on, but it's.
Okay, go ahead, Emily.
That's a good discussion. We spent a lot of time, this was years ago now, but before we embarked on this, we held these meetings with partners, we looked at what other people were doing, and this is a big part of all of this estimating is what are you basing your estimates on? So yeah, Atlas 15 will be really good to see, but we've got some estimates now and we've got a plan now based on, our best guess and scientific data.
Right.
So we've got the draft action plan framework. Like I said, these mitigation actions, they're early concepts. They're just kind of looking at the landscape, what's available, looking at the stormwater infrastructure system, kind of looking at how that plays together, running the model, seeing where the water's going to pool, where it's going to be sitting for maybe a while, and how can you manipulate the model to alleviate flooding in some areas. And so that might be increasing storage in some areas. It might be increasing pipe size in some areas, but if you increase the pipe size, the water goes faster. You're going to want to catch that water and have it be stored somewhere. So it's not just, again, putting the problem more downstream. So pray these keep it automatically advancing. So we're kind of looking at this complex system. We're looking at these concepts. A lot are on land owned by the city of Forest Lake. And so we really wanted the city's feedback. And they looked at the plan, and we just recently have had a little bit more correspondence. And like we talked about earlier, and kind of how Eric was alluding to the flood overlay district and the FEMA flood map, the city was concerned that we were going to basically try to expand regulations and expand the flood map and, make development harder to occur. The city also really recognizes these sites that they own and other sites in the area. They have roadway projects that they want to do, and certain roadway projects, if it goes past a certain threshold, it triggers our stormwater rule, and it requires stormwater management, like these, basins and ponds and infiltration basins that were presented earlier in those exhibits for other permits. Those were good examples. And so the city's thinking, if we're going to be required to do stormwater treatment, we're probably going to need those sites to do those, to satisfy those stormwater credits. And so really a lot of the red lines and a lot of the language that we added was to reflect that concern and to reflect, the city's desires for development and maintaining compliance with regulations and how that all kind of interplays.
Do we have a complete infrastructure map for stormwater in Forest Lake? Have we received 100% of their infrastructure mapping?
We have, it is all mapped, and we have it all in here. Where there is some degree of missing data, as I understand it, is some really specific details about the elevations and sizes of culverts. However, before we got into this and before we finalized this, we had a big push, and the city had a big push to identify which culverts they had missing inverts and elevations, and went out and surveyed them and got that data. So it's not 100% complete, but we really prioritized collecting the data that was most critical. So we do have a good amount of data here that we're working with. But Eric, Eric or Anne, maybe even, who's been here a bit longer too.
Yeah, I can jump in. So we, as Emily already stated, we did collect all of the critical infrastructure information that was needed, particularly in the areas of highest priority that were used in the model for this analysis. So we're not missing any data there.
Okay, so we have access to it.
Yes.
That's a clear answer. Okay, any other comments anyone wants to make? Do you have more, Emily?
Just that, I only just sent out the red lines this afternoon. I think take some time to take a look at them. I don't know if we want to push forward with an action tonight. We can bring it to the May 28th meeting. But, you know, we are really, we've got this grant that I keep referring to, and, you know, finalizing this action plan framework is the next step. And it is just a framework. And then we'll be working with the city and communicating before anything, you know, final happens with any of these projects. So finalizing the steps so we can move on to the subsequent steps.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Since we're gonna move on before you all, I have one more question for Eric. So Eric, since we use the 90 percentile level to represent what we think Atlas 15 might be, because you got a obviously trend in increasing water each 10 years. So is that 90% supposed to be our best estimate at what the Atlas mean will be?
No, that's not, that's trying to predict what the Atlas mean will be in like the year 2050 or the year 2080. That's what that 90% confidence interval is trying to represent. When the new Atlas 15 numbers come out, they'll have a new mean value, and I don't expect that to go up 3 inches. That might go up a quarter of an inch or something like that, but we'll have a new mean value. But another part that they're including in that is those future mean estimates based on, they call them socioeconomic pathways, like which they're scenarios in which, if we follow those scenarios, if we continue to see X degrees of increase in our global temperatures, this is what they're estimating in the year 2050 and 2080. So that's a second piece that's supposed to come out with the Atlas 15 results or package, and that's kind of the volume 2. So that forward-looking future estimates is what we would use instead of this Atlas 14 90th percentile or 90th percent.
So my concern is this: it's obvious that the city is concerned about losing developable land. So when you move from 6.95 inches to 9.22 to create water issues, they're living off of 6.95. And so when you drive it up to 9.22, if they don't want to follow that rule, and the new federal regulations aren't going to follow that, they're going to design at what the Atlas 15 mean is. So in many respects, we're over designing, we're creating problems that nobody wants to pay for because it's so far statistically out of relevance. It's like the reverse of the 80-20 rule. You're spending all your money to control 2% that's going to occur. It's probably just cheaper.
1%.
No, 90 is.
No, I mean, it's a 1% in 100 years, right? It's one time in 100.
Right.
So 1%, that's what we're talking about.
Well, but the 90 percentile shows
That's the confidence factor.
yeah, confidence factor, right, which means that there'll be,
But that event is a 1%.
right.
But we're having big rains now that are beyond the 100-year floodplain. It's not one every 10 years or one every 100 years anymore. It's they're coming faster and.
You know where I'm coming
bigger.
from.
Yeah, I'm
So-
not, I'm not on board with any guesstimates is where we're at. Guesstimates, I can't base good decisions on guesstimates.
These are
So-
not guesstimates, though. They're without having the federal program done, they have used,
Best estimates.
well, best science.
Well, there is no science that tells you what the water is gonna be in 40 years.
No.
No,
I
it's a
don't think-
guesstimate.
I don't
Yeah,
think we're
anyway,
talking that
I
way
am-
now.
I wanna deal with facts and I am all on board with dealing with facts.
Yeah. What
So,
Well, that mean value is going to go up.
Mhm.
There's no doubt about that.
sure,
But do you design, and right now, the existing regulators that control responsibility for floodplain want to design around the mean. We built a whole protection system around the 90th percentile rather than the 50th percentile. So that means that we're over designing for what they're willing to pay for. I mean, they don't wanna lose all this, the cost of developable land and then the extra. Acreage we gotta hold water in and so forth because of the 90th percentile. I'm just seeing where they're coming from right now. It's a little bit the same way we were having with our rules.
Well, I think we're
So-
gonna have to delay this conversation.
I know, I'm just saying.
So that we can get input from the insurance industry as well. So if you only do 50% of what you should be doing to hold back this water and not have it flow over businesses and homes, what's that factor? So you can't just look at it from one way. You've got to look at all the impacts, because that's a scary number.
And my point is, if the government has decided that for society, that we're gonna use the mean for Atlas 14 and the new mean for Atlas 15. At 6.95 inches rather than 9.25, we wouldn't have 2.5 feet of water on our roads. We'd have maybe 6 inches or 5 inches at all, and maybe they would even still be dry. If you ran the model at the 50 mean level, you're not gonna force this issue that we've got right now. We're almost creating, and I'm not saying we shouldn't do it, but I'm just saying that I don't think everybody else seems to be telling us that they want to run around the 50% or the mean values.
No, I don't know that everybody is running around telling us that, but I think we should table this
Okay,
discussion.
I agree.
Because
I just wanted to get the,
we're
the thought.
arguing hypotheticals here.
Right.
And
Right.
we only have one real example of what happens when you have too much water flowing through a system. And that's
Well-
Sunrise River and Comfort Lake, back at the beginning of the watershed.
Right, but the
So-
point is that right now, because of the situation, out of like 15 projects that we've identified, the city's only gonna willing to accept 3 of them.
Well, let's not talk about hypotheticals, though. This is a good discussion. We need to have a workshop where we can.
Well, that's what this says, and you go
Into
through
this.
this, we
Yeah.
didn't discuss tonight, it tells you what they're willing to support and what they're not willing to support.
Well, I haven't read that part yet, so,
Well.
You
it's in
talked about the
minutes, in
cities,
Thing,
yeah. But again,
okay,
let's get closer to September, when we have an actual NOAA 15 document. Yes,
Madam President, managers, our goal is to bring this back prior to September, if we want
mhm,
the plan approved, so then we can start utilizing the grant that we have in hand, or we need this approved, so. Again, it's a plan, it's not a legal contract, it's not anything else, but we just, to then start on the design criteria to then establish, like, how much are we really talking about, so. Then again, right, yes, we wanna respect the partners that are, that we're relying on for part of it, but also just understanding the science and the facts, I mean,
we
there's.
have our priority maps. I mean, so, it's not gonna be hard to look at what needs to be prioritized.
I mean, it's just frustrating to me to go through all these projects we've identified and have write no next to it, no next to it, no next to it. Or you have to pay a ransom for having to even look at it for you. So we end up with 3 projects, and.
But what we don't know, and I've asked Eric, and he's now getting into the details of it, it's like, well, yeah, how do they interact, whatever, so, but until we start getting to the next phase and doing the analysis, we don't know which ones will have the greatest impact and which ones. I think there's also just some misunderstanding about what we're asking for and how during the conversation with the staff level, there was kind of like a suggestion that maybe they could use one of the site, or there was inquiry about using the wetlands south of Aldi's for stormwater related to a road project. Well, no, you can't use an existing wetland for stormwater. I mean, that's, so, and I've been advocating that it's clear if you just stand on the sidewalk and look at it, that wetland has been greatly impacted from development. All these parking lot, all that area was all, according to historical mapping, was all wetland. So doing a restoration would provide storage capacity and restoration of the wetland. So those are the things that
Yeah.
we think that we could partner with and facilitate with the city. to benefit all parties,
Mhm.
so that's our overall objective.
Yeah, well, if you wanna bring it back to the next meeting and go forward with what we have, that's what I'm hearing.
Yes.
And then in September, the Atlas 15 comes out, and then we look at that and try to incorporate, or change what we need to at that point. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
I would, if I may,
Mhm.
I would love to, and I don't know how difficult this would be, but if we've got our own modeling system, I would love to see the comparisons between what the, potential increase in a, 0.25 inch or whatever he said. Eric, you said you expect the mean to jump 0.25 or something like that? Is that what you said for Atlas 15? Or just
Yeah,
somewhere-
yes,
yeah.
that's where we're seeing in other areas in Montana and Missouri. So it might be 0.1 inches, it might be no inches, but that mean is where I think that mean value will go up, and then I think they'll have also a better estimate on those future scenarios.
Cause I would love to see what's the difference between if we took mitigation factors based on the expected mean, based on what everybody else is gonna use going forward, the city's gonna reference the Atlas 15 mean. Then if we have a thought about what that is, just run it through our modeling and see what does it look like, and then maybe we could prioritize where's the areas that are affected with the projected Atlas 15 mean, and those could be the first projects we look at,
Mhm.
because then they're being covered in both cases. So anyway, just
That's why,
Yeah.
that's why we need a workshop.
Yeah.
So it's just on this topic, and, it's several hours long, and not all of them, but a lot of the questions can get answered at that time, and that's why we did this interactive mapping, so that we could do exactly what you were just talking about. So, I think that's working still, right? And you can utilize it, so that's what we're, I don't know, should I do this as a motion?
Well, can I ask one more?
Yeah.
Eric, do you know whether Rice Creek in their plan that they developed, floodplain that they did they use a 90% Atlas 14, or did they use the mean?
They would have used the mean in their latest updates. So if they
So
got
that's
a
why
flood,
our requirements are so much more aggressive than Rice Creek's, and that's
No,
why the city's upset.
no, I don't believe, well, we also use the mean. We also use the mean Atlas 14 rain event, and we call it our critical event, but we use the mean Atlas 14 rainfall depth, and depending on where it is in the watershed, that rainfall depth could be a 10-day event or a 24-hour event. That's what our
I'm glad you
rules
said-
currently.
I'm glad
And
you
that-
said that, because the different areas are going to have different outcomes or
Yeah.
Well,
impacts.
between Rice Creek and us, there's
Yeah.
not gonna be that much difference.
It could be.
Okay,
Sure.
all right, good enough.
But anyway, so
Good, thank you.
should I call for a motion to table this, or just give the instruction to staff to put together a workshop on this topic for further discussion? And whatever we need to do at the next meeting to move this thing along, we can do that at 24th, I guess, meeting.
Well, it looks to me like we've got 3 big projects to do. If we wanted to move ahead, right?
Well, let's talk about that at the next, at the workshop. I think that's what you were saying, and we've got more time. Chuck, I see you're on board here still. Thank you for hanging in, but should this be just a motion, or should it be just a direction to staff?
Madam Chair, there's not a need for the motion.
Okay,
You can just direct staff about the future agenda.
okay. I think it's been stated many times, so you have that, right, Emily? Okay, thank you so much. All righty,
We
Can
got
we
one
move
more
on?
topic, yeah.
Impaired waters list.
Hey, President Manager, it's just wanted to bring this to your attention that we've been waiting for the announcement from the EPA, about their delisting, list for Baird Waters. And we understand that for the feedback from the state agency that this helps facilitate that. Has indicated that this is going to be delayed for some number of months. Based on some, I don't know, very different factors, I suppose, but historically it was put out at the end of April, every other year. So we just wanted to get some board direction as to whether or not we would proceed with the delisting, because it's not going to change. All the data is there. We have full confidence, and so does the state, that it will be on the list. There's no question it has it. I think it indicated to Emily at one point, it's sort of the model example of what they would like to see in terms of delisting application. So, however, it wouldn't be official until some later date. So,
Well, I vote for waiting until it's official. You just don't know what might happen. We can talk about it, but I wouldn't do a big celebration just yet.
Well, my thought is that we're never gonna get it because the federal government's in charge of it. And you've already heard Trump say that there's no climate change. And I don't think is our Atlas 15 coming out of the federal government or somewhere else?
I believe that's NOAA.
Well,
it's federal.
Federal? Yeah, we're not gonna see that either, in my opinion, until the administration changes. So that basically, and we're seeing it already in this thing, because it's being delayed, right? And they said it's October, and then somebody else said it's probably gonna be December. I think we should go ahead and take our credit. We know it's real. Let's take it right away, and let's take it in September and celebrate.
But we
Because
haven't had,
they're not gonna take it away from us, because if it ever comes out, it's gonna be real.
But President Managers, so the state has reviewed and forwarded the submission based off of their professional review.
Right.
And again, they noted it as kind of a model example of what they would like to see in terms of a delisting application, data and otherwise. So thank you, Emily, for doing a great job on putting that together. So yes, we would have, there's no reason why it would not be eventually delisted, but it doesn't. So, but again,
Let's play by our rules, because I don't wanna, I would like to celebrate and get this thing, get credit for what the watershed as its staff has accomplished, and not wait till next February and find out that we're never gonna see it.
let's not forget our EOR engineers. They've been at.
I mean, they're involved too. I
Yeah.
meant everybody
Yeah.
involved, not just
Okay.
us. I mean, we're a small part of it, but I just think, Rebecca and I, in fact, when we had that meeting with the staff, remember I raised that question about if they just laid all the national science people off.
Well, we have a lot to think about at the next
Yeah, I
election.
think
don't
so,
we?
but I would say we should move ahead. Maybe we should discuss it now and make a vote on it so staff can plan, but. Well, we know we did it.
I
It's good
don't
work.
think we have to do it tonight. I mean,
Okay.
if we wait until the next, I would like to get our other two board members to have an opportunity to talk about this or weigh in on this. Nana Buteas, do you want to comment on whether we should delist or celebrate the
think-
delist?
I
Or
think
wait.
I would agree with Manager Schmaltz. I think we
Okay.
know what it is. Where the process is in place, we can't rely on an administration that's backwards pedaling on all this stuff. When that's out, that's going to come back and it's going to snap back in place, and we're going to have some progress going on again.
Mhm. Well, I'd like somebody to reach out to MPCA and ask what happens if we qualify under the rules according to the state, but what if the federal government doesn't get around to it, or they pull back all of those kind of awards and they don't do them anymore? What happens then? Do you really have an award or don't you? I'm curious.
Well, the fact is that we've made the results.
Manager Baki, would you like to weigh in?
Absolutely. Steve, make the motion. I'll second it. I think we need to move ahead with this. Let's not wait.
Hey, all right. Can you bring that to the next meeting? So we can vote on it then? Do we need to do it right now?
President Anderson, if I may.
Yes,
So
Please.
this is Adam. We tentatively set the event for June 17th. We haven't advertised it, but we have the venue lined up. The CAC, the board, and Comfort Lake Associations are aware of the date, but that is it. Again, we haven't advertised it to the public. So
Yeah.
I'm looking for direction on the June 17th date at this point. Are we scrambling and doing it then? Or if we have to wait till another board meeting, we're getting really tight on time.
I agree.
Yeah. Well, what about, you mentioned that, I think earlier, is our September meeting, State of the Watershed. Why not celebrate at that point? Maybe we will have it by then. That's a good add to that gathering.
But I think that as local people say, as long as you get to May 19th, you can say something about it. Okay, that's what they told us to do. So I think we should follow their advice and hold a meeting on the 17th, which is after May 19th. And then we should hold it again at the state, we should review it again at the state of the watershed in end of September. I mean, it's such good work that we can at least mention it twice during the year. So I think, yeah, and it's something special to have a lake, have their own part like Bone Lake did. That was really a big event for them, and it'd be a big event for you too, and your water and your lake association. And then everybody can celebrate it at the September meeting.
And
We're
September,
gonna miss it otherwise.
when did you say September, or no, not September?
June 17th.
June 17th, right? Okay, what day is that? Wednesday, Saturday, what is it?
The Wednesday, correct.
Wednesday, okay. Oh, yeah. Goodness. Okay,
Well, I'll make the motion that we decide to go ahead and shoot for the June 17th recognition day for Comfort Lake. And that we also then plan for recognizing it at the State of the Watershed meeting at the end of September.
Yeah.
So we get two shots at it.
I will second that motion.
all right. Any further discussion? Okay, roll call.
Manager Schottenmiller,
Aye.
Manager Baki,
Aye.
Manager Taves,
Aye.
Manager Schmaltz,
Aye.
President Anderson.
Aye. Unanimous, thank you. Next item is project update.
Madam President, managers, there's any particular questions that we can go through these. Again, the highlighted areas are things that have changed from the previous month. So the next step photos there. Thank you. So just provide the.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's fine.
I don't-
Past projects. We're presently working with council and engineer, Eric in particular, EOR on reviewing the submitted bids for the iron and sand filter, to bring that into one of the next two board meetings for with board consideration. Green infrastructure project is still being evaluated. EOR's completed. Is that correct, Ann? The surveys for that, and staff are collaborating with that as well.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Moody Lake, we have a couple projects out there. We're have an agreement with this landowner and the channel from to Moody Lake is directly behind the staff here, just maybe 10 feet from the edge of the field. And so this is why we were interested in stabilizing this area, similar to another project where we've done something like that. Bone Lake South nature area. Right now we're working on the Bone Lake, the management plan, but also early next week we've been finalizing a few details on getting the fencing contractor out there, and we just had get through a couple different things with the city, but that's online and Blaine's gonna be, I think, out there Tuesday. To get started on, it, or with the individual to get started on. School like ag BMPs, so. One main project area, landowners no longer has done some practices. Or 2 of the 3, the third one, we're still hoping for that to be implemented, but we're looking to pivot to a different location. To give us. To be able to utilize those funds for the same purpose. And then continue to have a conversation with the one landowner about the third project.
Is there still pollution going into School Lake? From
There is
this
runoff.
operation? Okay. Anything else?
Mike, I did notice there are some flags on the Bone Lake South fence line, so somebody's been out there marking things.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, and the contractor, right, so apparently there's some issue with the location of the fence. It's clearly, they want to make sure it's out of the right of way, so again, we're just making. That's my understanding of the flagging. Anything else?
No, I'm waiting for you to tell me that you're done. Are
That's
you
it.
done? Okay.
Well done.
All right, very good. Next is report of managers. Manager Taves, I'll start with you.
Nothing to report here.
Okay, thank you. Manager Baki.
The Bone Lake AIS action planning is going to start here at the end of on the end of the month. We've got Matt Hendrickson and Mike Sandiger meeting with Matt Oldenburg Downing from the Washington Conservation District, and Tom Furry of our Bone Lake Association president, and myself will be putting our heads together and looking at what we can do for an action plan to address AIS on Bone Lake. One of the things we started doing is talking to some of the service providers who put in docks and lifts to make sure they have been trained on AIS and what our best practices. And I did with my provider who puts in my dock and lift. I talked with him about it and he said, yes, I have been through the training, but that's as far as we've gone with it. So more coming on that as we put together an action plan. I'm very excited about it though. I think it's something that's long overdue and it will give our residents around the lake something to look at and think about as we move forward.
Thank you. Manager Schmaltz.
Just one thing, is Adam still here? Adam?
I am. Yes, I am. Yep.
Yeah, I just, at the Lake Association meeting last night, we had a fellow named, what's his name here? Paul Peterson from Lakes Area TV. And he's a video specialist and does smart, short videos. And I think he said he met with you guys maybe 1.5 years ago. So you may have met with him already. But he seems to do some very good work at a reasonable price. So I got a little write-up here I'm going to leave for you and take a look at it and see what you think. You might want to have him come in and talk to you about what they might do for us. Are you familiar with him or not?
I am, yes. I've met with him a few times. We had a meeting and then he also recorded the State of the Watershed. He was the staff that was there for that.
Yeah.
Okay. Just for your information, I'll pass it on to you. It's up to you, but
Yeah.
it seems to be
appreciate it.
$5,000 for 6 segments. And, 6 segments of 2 to 3 minutes each. That's kind of what we did, on the Shoreline program. For the Facebook program we had, right? I don't know how much that cost us, but just another vendor and they're close by and he seems to do really good work. He's got a good reputation. So I'll give it to Tori and you can pick it up from her.
Sounds good.
Thank you. That's all I had.
Okay, thank you. Manager Jim.
Nothing to report.
Okay. Mine is just to once again ask if any staff have gone out to look at that La Pointe property And I had brought it up at a prior meeting. And there's no visible holding pond anymore, and a lot of trees have been pushed into the Sunrise River. So it's a really egregious change. So,
Yes, Madam President, managers, I mean, I'll let Mike Sandiger address this. I know he was out there and thought we had already reported on it, but go ahead.
So the TEP panel, technical evaluation panel, went out to look if there was any Wetland Conservation Act violations. And the TEP panel decided there were not.
okay,
So where the trucks are currently parked, or if they're parked, their bumper is where the wetland edge is. So they could temporary park vehicles farther into there, but no grading would be allowed, no dirt movement or anything. Basically past where those bumpers of the trucks are.
where's the holding pond?
So
That property had a holding pond that was visible from the road.
there is a pond back in there. It's obscured by trees from the road. I'll point where it was on the map, if it's where you thinking it was, or if it's disappeared.
I've been by it. You don't have to show me a picture,
Sunrise River is really long. How do we keep focusing on this one?
because that's where the violations are. I mean, when you go by it,
Doesn't sound like we have any
well,
violations.
that's what it sounds like, doesn't
So
it?
I think, yeah, this is what, the third time we've been down there, like I remember. You guys been asked at least three times to look at it. So I think, again, for the 80-20 rule, we should not go a fourth time.
I didn't get a report back of those previous times,
So we
okay?
got one now.
So now I have a report.
Okay.
All right, next item, administrator performance review. That was supposed to be taken off for this. So we've already done that. Or am I just to give a,
No, there's nothing,
Report.
nothing
Okay.
further to report or add.
okay,
Yeah.
It wasn't removed because the agenda was published on Monday before.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Tuesday.
okay. All right, well, we're done with that. So, the last thing, just for the board, is like we talked about before, is to, just get Mike's, contract, up to date for this year. And we should be able to hopefully accomplish that in the next few days. Chuck's gonna be gone, but I did send him a copy of the notes from the meeting and the changes that it made from last year. So we'll get that taken care of as soon as possible, so Mike's contract will be taken care of. All right, next is summary and approval of board direction.
Madam President, in Mr. Holtman's absence, I took a few notes and I recorded 2 items for the summary and approval of board direction. One, staff will schedule a workshop to discuss the Floodplain Resilience Action Plan framework. And then staff will prepare to hold a celebration event for the Comfort Lake nutrient impairment delisting on June 17th, with the caveat that it is still a proposed delisting until the EPA confirms the list.
Okay, anything else from anybody that was missing? Okay, very good. Next item is adjournment. Who wants to make?
I'll
that
move that we adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
All right, Manager Schottenmiller,
Aye.
Manager Buckey,
Aye.
Manager Taves,
Aye.
Manager Schmaltz.
Aye.
President Davis.
Aye, we are adjourned.
Good meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you all.
Guys.